Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Today we're bringing you part 2 of the highlights from this past Thursday's busy town council meeting. We begin with a trio of appropriation requests for upgrades to the Hyannis water system. The appropriations total nearly $1.4 million and cover the ongoing pipe replacement program, the design of water main upgrades, and emergency repairs to the Maher water treatment facility. Here, Hyannis Water Board Chair Deb Crow explains each project in more detail and gives some historical context as to why the work needs to be done.
The Hyannis water system is 100 years old on April 14th. And so we are trying to deal with all those assets that have been around since the system has. It was first put into system on April 14th, 1911. And the pipe replacement program that we're going to be looking for this year, with the money we've had in the last 2 years, we've done about 4.6 miles. What we found is when we go and do the 100-year-old pipes, we also need to replace the gates, the hydrants, and the service connections are crumbling in our hands when the pipes are about 100 years old. So we're having to replace all of those too. But we have done about 4.6 miles so far. And what we're looking to do with this year's money is Stevens Street and the Hyannis High School Road extension, and also to clean and reline the C Street pipe main, which is a large main, and so you can clean and reline it as opposed to replacing it. So that's what we'd be looking for this $1,050,000. Should I go on? Do them all?
That would be great.
Okay. The next one is for fire flows and water quality, the Craigville Beach area, Greenwood Avenue, and that's to take a 1913 main and make it a little bit bigger and a much better substance for the pipe. And the last one is an emergency repair to the Maher treatment plant. The Maher treatment plant is down right now, and it's been down, and the air stripper's been down. We have an air stripper there to take some of the volatile chemicals out of the water. And unfortunately, the media in the air stripper is no longer usable, and we need to replace all the media in the air stripper. The air stripper actually has a whole bunch of media bubbles in it, and as the water comes through, it works and takes out all the bad chemicals. We need this up because during season we get 25% of our water from the Maher treatment areas. So we need to start as soon as you vote. We hope it's very positive. We'll be transferring some money from a prior capital approved project. We'd like to request $166,000 of what was originally a $200,000 well rehab capital expenditure from 2 years ago.
As Crow explained during the meeting, the repairs are not paid for with general fund taxpayer dollars. Rather, the funds come from revenue collected from Hyannis Water ratepayers. The council easily approved all 3 appropriation requests. As the hour approached 11 p.m. last Thursday, the town council approved a new precinct map for the town of Barnstable. The new map comes on the heels of the official numbers from the 2010 federal census, which showed a decline in the town's population, forcing the precinct boundary lines to be redrawn. As you'll see, the biggest changes are in Marston's Mills, but overall the changes are relatively minor. Let's listen in on some of the discussion between councilors and Town Clerk Linda Hutchenrider before the vote was cast.
I'm certainly in favor of this, but my question through you, Mr. President, would be properly directed to our Town Clerk. I'm curious why there was such a large disparity between the original predicted numbers, particularly Precinct 9, had, I think, 1,100 people had left. There was paperwork put out during the original presentations of potentially going to 12 precincts, and there were 1,100 people gone from 9. There were 500 or 600 departing. 535, I think, had left my precinct. Now, what I've read in the paper, good press coverage on this issue, which is good. I thank the press for that. The apparent departures are more in the western part of town, in Precinct 12 in particular, and 10, I think, and then a little bit of departure in Hyannis. So why did the final numbers come in so differently than the original?
If I may, that is very easily answered in the fact that those first figures that we got were all best guesstimates by various sources. And I think a lot of the people in Hyannis kind of fall into the groove of not being counted in a lot of the normal counts because we have a transient population. We do have individuals that are not necessarily standing up and being counted in a lot of other venues, such as voter registration and so forth. So they were guessing where the lacks were more than actually looking at the actual populations. They were just going on figures that they had. And they were close, but they weren't that close. And they were close in the number, but they weren't close in where those numbers were. And it's a domino theory. If you look at the changes are small, but you move from one precinct, Centerville bumped a little bit into Osterville bumped a little bit in Katuitt had to bump into Marston's Mills. So it just all worked around the center of the town. And so the larger changes were made in the Marston's Mills area. But I think that if you look at the map, the rest of the town basically stayed just about the same. So that was good.
Thank you.
Councilor Tinsley?
Yeah, just a quick comment. You know, once the final numbers came out, I just wanted to applaud the town clerk for staying on top of it. You know, in the very beginning, there were several of us that questioned the validity of the counts just by sheer physical, you know, just going around our properties and looking and knowing our population. So just, you know, I would just like to pass on that thanks. That we know we stayed on top of it, stayed the course. We have a good map. I'm definitely in support of this. And I think our constituents, I think they're being served with this new map because it's such little change. And it definitely has my vote. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Barry?
Curious to any idea of how the local representatives, in particular on the western part of the town, when will we find that information out as to?
This fall. They're going to start working on it. As soon as all of the maps are approved, the LEDRC has to approve each and every city in town. As soon as that is done, they've got a committee already set up, and they're going to start hashing it away.
Great.
So I'm sure you're going to hear soon.
Councilor Crocker?
Thank you, Mr. President. How about a time frame for what we think is response? All the cities and towns are bringing them to the Secretary of State at the same time. What is first come, first serve? How does it really get addressed?
First come, first serve is correct. So as soon as we get it in, it'll go before the board, and as soon as they start working on them, they are most accepting of all of the populations that are as close as they can to the 5% or less figure. And our town is such a different population as far as geography goes. They will accept the fact that we're a little closer to the 5% than some of the others are, but we did well.
A clarification, the 5%, you mean the deviation from the previous district?
No, the deviation between each of the precincts can be no more than 5%.
But are they aware of the slight changes that we have in some of our precincts, so that expedites our process too? Thank you.
If you'd like a closer look at the redrawn precinct lines, contact the town clerk's office. Now, let's take a look at this week's remaining meetings. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.